Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome to the All In Podcast. We're going to be doing an episode with just me and Kevin today. Alistair and the League Dad won't be making it. We cannot get ourselves on the same page. It's just not happening these days on the podcast, so that's okay because LCS was great this weekend. First, let me get a quick update on you, Kevin. How's life? How's the new job? The new jobbers?
New job has been fun. I might be working with the Warriors and other NBA teams, so that'll be
Wow.
exciting. But more excitingly, APA started for Liquid, and that has been the highlight of my week.
Wow, damn. All right, working with some of the most famous basketball teams, but TL gets some wins. So
Just how the tier list works. I hope they don't watch this episode.
worth.
Or I hope
All
they
right.
do watch this episode and comment.
And they laugh about it. They go, haha, that Kevin. What a funny guy. All right, for sure. I'll ask myself the question. I've been doing okay. A lot of interview prep, a lot of interviewing, trying to get a job myself. And yeah, honestly, it was a bit of a void. There was no LEC this weekend, so it was weird, like having time to focus and not just watch League of Legends 24/7. So I'm excited for LEC playoffs next weekend, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about LCS. We'll just get the elephant out of the room. Kevin, why don't you start it off with a bit of that APA hype? TL started with a loss to NRG. We're going to talk about NRG later. And then went on to win 2 games in a row in spectacular fashion. Go ahead, talk about it.
I mean, APA, I'm so hyped that he's starting. He is actually NA talent. He's been around for a long time. He's been destroying it in either academy or amateur for a while. A lot of people know. Actually, I had a friend who used to play normals with him at High Yellow Normals in season 3 and 4, and they were in a Discord together. So he was super hyped for him. He says the guy is a genuinely good player and not toxic like some of the streamers and High Yellow players are in the scene. So, but what else that means is that we don't have Harry starting. So, I will say, to his credit, this was not a benching by TL. Harry stepped down after game 1 against NRG. He said that he did not feel like he was playing up to standards. So he actually is risking his career so that his team can succeed. And I actually really respect that. If this was at MSI or Worlds, then I'd be like, you got to stay in, man. Like, this is just in team. But right now, this is the time to do it, okay? So this is not an Ole moment.
Yeah, definitely think that, it takes some, I don't know, courage or self-awareness to bench yourself. Obviously, we don't really know. He put out a statement. Team Liquid could be like, hey, you should really put out one of those statements. We don't really know what happens behind the scenes. Um, it's weird, right? This career path that players choose is very like, you know, yeah, it's nice to bench yourself for the team, but like players don't really stay on one team for very long. So like he could have just boofed his own career. Like, will he get another chance? He might not actually by doing this to himself. So I don't know, for the Team Liquid, it's probably best. Maybe for him and his long term growth, is best as like a human being. But in terms of his career, it might just be over. We'll see. We'll see if he can improve later on. But for APA though, yeah, pretty fun stuff. Alistair, one of our other podcasters on here, actually said, I think he ran into him like in college or something, or knows him in real life because apparently Alistair beat APA in a volleyball game, like a random pick. Like,
Yeah.
who plays volleyball these days? So that's a cool fun fact. But to get into the gameplay, I mean, I was talking about this in the Discord, like just watching APA. I could just tell from the first few minutes, just like the way he moves in CSs and lane and trades on Tristana in that first game against IMT. I was like, yeah, this guy's already better than Harry. You can kind of just get a feeling of like how he moves around and when he's like roaming around the map and stuff too. Like, he was actually leaving lane at opportune moments. Like, this just seems like a complete mid laner, like someone who's LCS ready. Any more thoughts on AP and the TL games? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the funniest part is this was the Korean experiment team, and the funniest part is it technically still is. And the reason why is APA. I think he's from the Midwest. He's Caucasian. He's not. I don't think he speaks fluent Korean, as far as we can tell. And what he
No.
said was the team is just speaking Korean around him 90% of the time, and only telling him anything relevant that like oh, we're coming over, or do you need a gank? If he says he needs a gank, obviously they understand that, but it's 90% Korean. So He's just sitting there farming. He doesn't know
Yeah.
what they're saying. Dude, they could be tilted off the face of the earth around him, and he could not tell. He's just like, oh, I'm having a great time playing Ziggs and Tristana killing turrets. I mean, I don't know what you guys are upset about. So I actually think this is so funny. I will say that he has played really well. He himself said he had jitters on stage, which you could kind of see when he took a turret shot, as he took a really good trade timing at level 3 on Tristana. But he's willing to do it. Like, he did so many jump ins against Tactical's team as Tristana, and they worked. They were
Yeah.
all good ones. None of them were high risk at all, for the most part. So I'm really excited about him. I'm excited that he's picking shit like Ziggs. He's just like, pick me what I'm good at, guys. Stop forcing the meta. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Why don't we do more of that? But they only beat 2 bad teams. So 100 Thieves and Immortals is not. 100 Thieves is closer in Liquid standing. They were actually like 5-6 and 6-5 when they fought.
Yeah.
But I mean, Immortals was on a 9-game lose streak. So we still haven't been truly tested. But I mean, Harry would have thrown one of those games statistically. So I'm happy about it.
And I think Harry, like, the main difference is like not about the level of the opponents. It's like the circumstances that APA is put in, and he already looks so much better. We'll have to test it obviously against better teams. Like, not saying that all of a sudden Team Liquid is going to be the best team in LCS, but just from like comfortability standpoint, right? This guy, like you said, this guy does not like speak Korean. He's not in the comms. I think if you go back to past teams, there have been world championship rosters that they don't all speak the same language. I think it's IG and Damwon. No, I some Chinese team. I think it was FPX where some of the players spoke Korean, some of the players spoke Chinese, and they just figured it out. They just mostly used pings, they used body language, they had a couple of key phrases and words here and there. Like, you don't actually need to be fully fluent and be able to speak to each other to be able to play League of Legends with each other at a very high level. I mean, maybe it's different these days, right? The teams I listed that won Worlds was like 3-4 years ago. Um, but I think it's just, yeah, a good mid laner. You could put Faker in there, right? He won't speak English, but he will be a really good mid laner, and he'll like see where people are moving on the map. He'll listen to pings, right? He'll get some body language and some just intuition about how his teammates will move. Like, I think that's something that Harry was missing. That even though he could speak a full like whole language with his jungler and his other teammates, he was not on the same page. So I'm really excited for APA. This is a good opportunity, and I also want to talk about this idea of NA mids, right? We also have Insanity coming back to replace Ruby, and he goes 3-0 with his team. And TSM looks really like much better than anyone expected. I actually think I'm going to say it. They actually look like a good team, which is freaking weird to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just gonna complain. I'm gonna rant just a tiny bit.
Uh-huh.
So this year alone, right? We imported a bunch of people. We got Armit in the top lane. I mean, Rich is looking fine, but we imported Ruby, imported Quid and Vikla and Prince and a ton of guys, and yet we have APA and Insanity and even Revenge, right? Who's not like he wasn't on the bench, but he was on the bad team, not being picked up by good teams for a long time. NA
Palafaker,
talent, yeah,
JoJo's team.
Sure, yeah. I mean, these guys are already kind of on good teams. I'm really trying to talk about like the fact that we have supposedly bad players sitting around,
Mm-hmm.
not able to fit into LCS teams, so we have to import, right? That's a total fraud. That's a total sham. You're telling me that APA and Insanity don't live up to like being better than most of these import mids that we've gotten, specifically Vikla and Quid and some of these other guys, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Ruby,
why did we do
Bolulu.
this? Yeah, Balulu even or Treats. Like, why are they here in our league when we actually have real talent and real people that can play the game? So you're telling me like a year ago, Insanity and APA weren't this good, weren't able to be slotted into some LCS teams. So I don't know. Do you have any quick comments on that kind of overall idea? And
Yeah,
then,
I mean,
yeah,
Insanity's 6-3, APA is 2-0. Between the two of them, they're 8-3 for just academy call-ups from recent times, right? Like Palafaker, yeah, their team's still like 5-6, or their team's like 5-7 or whatever. But like they still have really good moments. I think what's really exciting is this is the first time that it's NA mids are half of the league. I'm not even counting. Like what you would call it, Australia or whatever. I'm for Harry when he was starting. I'm just saying NA mids, and a lot of them, like JoJo's literally the center point of his team. He has a NA jungler with an NA mid, and they're the center point of a team. How when is the last time like that has been in a top a rank one roster, right? It's been so long. NA mids were a joke for so long, and they're half of the spots, and most of them are pretty good.
Yeah,
So
most of them
I'm
are.
so excited for it. I'm hyped
Yeah,
for it.
I would say like they're also like the highlight of the narratives, right? I mean, APA obviously like grabbed a huge amount of narrative for him, but Insanity coming back after being replaced by Ruby and having a 3-0 weekend for one of the weakest looking teams, TSM. I think that's just like, really grabbing a hold of this. But the orgs are full of shit, right? We have to get rid of Academy. It's so bad. Like we can't make any talent. We have to import, right? Because it's so bad in the Academy. There's no talent in NA. Oh, we have to get rid of the import rule. Like they're all full of crap. They have terrible scouting or something, or they didn't like actually try to look at NA talent at all. Like I mean, it just leads to a whole conversation of what the hell the org's been doing for the past like what 5, 6, 7 years of ignoring North American talent. So pretty frustrating, but also glad at least it's happening now. Right, better
Yeah,
late
I
than
wanted
never,
to
I
add real
guess.
quick for Insanity. Like he was in LCS before. He was Immortals starting mid laner when it was like Revenge, Xerxes, Immortals,
Mm.
Insanity, and they were like okay 7th place, and then they got into the playoffs and they lost 5th, 6th place, right? So that looks bad, sure. But right after he left, they got POE and they went 9th, 10th, and 9th, like with POE. Every split
Yup.
that the POE was on that roster. So like I don't think it was Insanity's fault, guys. He looked fine also. We all said this before. He looked fine. Immortals is just a bad org at taking care of their talents for some reason.
Yeah, I also think there was a time where I think a lot of us, I don't know, weren't talking about it, but Xerxes was really in a down spiral in his career. He came off a splice of a pretty good world performance, got booted to NA and was just a really bad jungler on Immortals. He came back to EU and was on Excel, I think, the 10th place team that was had like some of the craziest players like Odawamne on there, Patrick, and just 10th place, and then they got rid of Xerxes, and now Excel is like one of the top tier teams in LEC. So, there's a lot of caveats I think that surrounds these NA talent that like they just get unlucky and get like scapegoated when it's like the imports around them that are phoning it in, right? So all right, we complain enough about these imports and how great NA is, and Faker said it, NA is the hardest region. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's just go into a quick bit about TSM's games. For me, I think the most impressive thing was TSM beat Golden Guardians, and honestly, it was pretty handed. Like it was. I wouldn't say it was like a stomp or anything, but it was a pretty slow game, very macro heavy, and TSM was just I don't know. They seem more coordinated than Golden Guardians, which I think is, we've been saying Golden Guardians and C9. Those are the most like team fight coordinated teams we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
TSM just had the macro game on them. Yeah. Any thoughts on
I
TSM?
My thought on TSM's like it's incredibly impressive to win a longer game against Golden Guardians. Like if you catch me on broadcast, I'll always say, Liquid smashing C9, that's so impressive. But it's kind of a fluke, right? In the sense that they just stomped them early game. And that like once that snowballs, anyone who's played knows that it's not that hard. Like it's actually harder to throw. The teams find a way. When you play a longer game though, and you can still beat a team fighting team, that means that like, well, okay, it wasn't that long. It was like a 27-minute game, but it was very close back and forth in terms of fights, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't just like they just snowball early game and the game collapsed. It was that they fought back and forth and they just closed out the game with Insanity's Tristana mid. I think that's a huge deal because Golden Guardians was on the up and up. They literally beat C9 in the same week, so it's not like they're slumping. In fact,
Yeah.
Golden Guardians, I was ready to be like, oh, they're the number one team in our league. Like they beat their demon finally, and they just look uncontested, right, by EG or C9 currently. TSM was just like, hey, we're real. My only thought is, imagine if they didn't sub in Ruby, considering he's 6'3" with Insanity, and that's like, well, you have to fight the tilt of getting a free O3 weekend right before.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
that's the big question, right? What if TSM never switched? I mean, for all we know, TSM might have not switched Insanity and they don't go 3-0 this weekend, right? Cuz that's how psychology is weird, League of Legends mentality is weird, right?
mhm.
Insanity gets subbed out, he gets put back in. His mentality is different than if he was just in the entire time, right? So we don't know. Maybe like it lit a fire under his ass, it lit a fire
Mhm.
under TSM's ass to be like, yo, we can 3-0, we can beat one of the best teams in the league in Golden Guardians, and they did it. So I'm really impressed. I also have to give shout outs. I think Chowie is their coach, right? This must be so I don't know if it's happening this split, but I know it was happening last year where he was the coach for both their academy and their main team. To be able to hold together a roster like this, I feel like Chowie is doing some heavy lifting. Like he's been a known impressive coach for a long time in his career, and I think being able to like work on this roster with an org that's like doesn't give a crap about you, and switch in like multiple players and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I think Chowie's
Uh,
always done impressive stuff in his career.
their current coach is Revan. He used to be an assistant coach on Cloud9 actually. Chowie left during the splits, in between
Uh,
splits.
in between.
But
Oh, so he's not okay.
yeah, but
Well,
Revan worked for Cloud9 as assistant coach last year, so he was there for all of last year, and he was the one who picked Ruby. So I mean, it's impressive what they've been able to do with Insanity, but at the same time, he literally decided to recruit Ruby when there was like they were looking for
yeah.
8 players. So I don't know.
All
I'm a
right.
little bit
Well,
confused.
see, it's a good thing we have this discussion because then I was just proven wrong very quickly. And yeah, go the players. The coach did nothing. It's all insanity.
Well, I mean, it's even better. NA wins again.
And he wins again. Perfect. Yeah. See, I'm gonna go back to making fun of the coach. He tried to import. We don't like that. We don't like that. Anyways, I just want to talk about TSM versus Energy really quick. I really think it's
Mhm.
so funny. Contracts has actually looked like the best player on Energy, but in that one game he went 0-9-4. We saw some of that old vintage Contracts Giga Inting. It was good to see. It was funny. He could not live. Like, I'm be honest, it's also in that game. It's kind of hard to blame Contracts. Like, you look at his team. He's got a top lane Jace who's behind a Renekton, and then he's got a Kai'Sa mid who's completely useless. And Contract's like, I I want to do something. I can't do anything. I'm a tree. I'm a Maokai. They're invading my ass 24/7. I'm like the only melee champion on my team. Like Ignar was 0-5-1 too. Like he wasn't having a good time either.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, I mean, so we could transition to NRG. I thought that game was so funny. I was like, is Contracts gonna mental boom or is he like actually a rock solid? Because you know what? Turns out he was rock solid as hell. Energy. I mean, they lose to TSM and they beat both EG and Team Liquid this weekend. Like, when it comes to the narrative that Energy only beats people at the top of the table, loses people to teams at the bottom of the table. They just didn't realize that TSM was a top team yet, so they had to lose to them in spectacular fashion. But what are your thoughts on this super weird Energy roster?
All right, this is cope a little bit, but like they did not deserve to win against Liquid at the start of the week. Like there are literal forces in the universe willing NRG to win games that they don't deserve to win just so that it can keep the narrative going. Like I don't believe it. Harry threw that game harder than any like one player can not harder, but like he just kept throwing. He died multiple times solo after having a good early game, which he usually does. Statistically, he's a good early game player. He was like missing cues, missing combos. He has the right idea. Like he has the eye for what he should be doing, but he just doesn't have the brain slash hands. So like he might think, oh, I need a flank, I need to be looking for angle, then gets caught. And I'm like, oh, you had the idea, but you just don't have the bigger picture, right? You just have the instinct of what you need to do. Or he'll just
No.
miss the execution, even though he has the right timing, the right position. I was just like, oh my God. So I know why he subbed himself out. He actually threw multiple times. I think Summit also got caught once, but Summit was doing a lot of work except for when he trolled as he was backdooring.
Yeah,
In
that was
top lane, he
weird.
trolled and then died for no reason. But either way, he still took like 2 inhib turrets, took a Nexus turret. Like he was doing a lot of work. That was like a good Fiora pick. He was up 100 CS on Cassante. I was like, screw that guy.
Yeah.
But Harry just found a way to find the one window when they had Soul Dragon on the way and they had Baron buff. Team Liquid had Baron as they lost the game. Like how often does that happen?
Yeah,
So I
that
just
game
wish
in
Harry wouldn't do
general.
that.
Yeah, I mean, well, Harry's out. I not to be mean, but I hope he doesn't come back. I'm sorry. APA just looks too good. Oh, I mean, if APA starts looking bad or something, or Harry shows something absolutely magical in scrims because the pressure's off, maybe bring him back. But honestly, I'm down for this APA stuff.
I mean,
But
Harry's stomping in Challenger right now. He went like 11-1 against Disguised Toast's team. He
yeah,
destroyed them against Young, who was also in LCS before for a little bit for Immortals, was it? Or Golden Guardians as mid laner? I forget. So he's smurfing Academy like usual. I think he's just terrible under pressure.
Yeah, maybe on stage, jitters, nerves, something you'll have to figure out. I mean, there's a lot of players in history that have been like that haven't been able to maintain an LCS career because that's the one thing that holds them back, right? But somehow we started talking about Team Liquid again. Let's talk more about NRG. I want to talk
Sorry,
about
yeah.
NRG. Actually, no, sorry. I got to flame Summit really quick. So I thought it was so funny. So Summit was building a hull breaker, right? Literally,
Hmm.
the minute he finishes Hullbreaker, he actually goes in and he flanks for a team fight, and then Team Liquid instantly loses that team fight. And I was just like, Hullbreaker Gaming, yes, in pro play, it's a classic. Like build Hullbreaker, immediately group and team fight, and then they lost. Right? It was one of those
Yeah.
fights where Team Liquid had this like amazing Giga flank. It's like you're saying, Team Liquid sometimes has these great ideas and it looks perfect. It's like all you need to do is execute it correctly, and you're in the exact right position you need to be. And they had this crazy like 5-man flank surrounding 4 of NRG, and I think like an Dokla or whatever was or Palafox was just not there. So it was a pretty prime opportunity, and somehow Team Liquid lose this. So I think there's still some communication things like going on with them when they had Harry. I wonder if Harry's like clogging up the comms or something. Also, to talk about the int from Summit, I thought it was so funny. He like kills the inhibitor. He pushes in like he all the way to the Nexus turrets, and then he like is free. He's got home, and he decides to just dash into the base. I'm like, whoa, dude, you just killed yourself. Like it's just confusing stuff. I love it. Energy, like it kind of feels like FBI was both like their worst and best player of the series. Like there are times where he would escape from like these like big engages and do a lot of damage and kill people. And then there are other times where it looks like he's actually AFK. Do you remember FBI was pushing on the bottom tier turret
Yes,
of
with
Team
with
Liquid?
his support, he just dragged his support along for a death wish.
Yeah, dude, they're pushing it up, and like, Yeon walks up and starts hitting him, and FBI is just like, "Yo, there's a turret right here. There's an Aphelios hitting me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stand in auto." And he just stands in autos, and he gets freaking blown up and dies. Man, the guy actually just like DC'd or something. That was the weirdest thing ever. Um, all right, well, that was a fun, weird game. Let's talk more about some good stuff for Energy, though. At least, I think their game against EG was pretty freaking decisive. They beat them handedly, and I feel like it was pretty one-sided. Um, Palafox obviously went insane on the LeBlanc. Uh,
Hmm.
FBI got a pentakill, even though it felt like FBI was still the same player that we was in the Team Liquid series, where it's like he's doing a lot of damage, but he's also inting like crazy. Like he almost like 2 of FBI's deaths felt very like yeah, you kind of killed yourself on that one. But Palafox had a great game. Contracts had a great game. Dokolo was there along for the ride. Any other thoughts on Energy and to talk about their weird
Uh,
situation?
the other thoughts I had was like I agree with the FBI. He got a pentakill at like 13 minutes this game. Like that put
Just
him on
weird.
Jinx like through the moon. But then he still managed to die 2 more times afterward. And I was like, what are you doing? You have so much money. You have like a GA early, but he's still dying. I still think he is good, and I think if they can get this together, like I think the issue is like FBI doesn't have like someone to keep his reins in. So like he used to play with Huki, right? Who's actually known to be pretty good with the team environment, leads the team. There's a reason why him and Ignar were still in bot lane looking to throw the game, like actually handing the game over. Neither both of them have the same mentality apparently, and it's just really destructive. Um, I think that Doko looked pretty good into just in general, and even though he did have a bad Jace game, I guess. He looked fine in general against EG, and I think that Palafox getting a 25 stack mid Jace, it's been a while since I've seen an NA mid do that. Not like just in general. I don't think anyone buys mid Jace. I only see it from like Rookie and other international mid laners when they're smurfing their ass off.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But I think that the what did I dub them? Not rational gaming in the chat. I think I've also seen it elsewhere, but like they do have that CLG DNA in them, so I'm not happy the CLG sold, but at least the spirit is still alive.
Yeah, the spirit's still alive. Definitely. I mean, I think it's interesting that LeBlanc, the Shiv nerfs came in. This is 13.13, and people are still putting some priority on LeBlanc. It's not like the craziest high priority, but she was still making it work. And it felt like she was like a bigger DPS threat than the Jinx was, honestly. Just how the late game team fights would go. Like, I think it was like two fights, honestly, where FBI died pretty early on, and then it's actually just Palafox carrying the damage at the end. Um, yeah, to comment on FBI, I gotta say it, man. I watching his play is definitely one of those like right place, right time, but he just doesn't have hands. I don't think he has hands. Like getting that, okay, cleaning up that pentakill at 13 minutes for Jinx, that was not a hard penta to get. I promise you, you put in an academy random level ADC into that situation, they probably play it out the same and get a pentakill. Um, honestly, like he was missing W's during that pentakill, right? Like he was still whiffing
Yeah.
some things. So I like it really pains me to say this because FBI was kind of like a low key favorite player of mine that I haven't been able to praise for a really long time. Um, I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he's fully there. Like, hey, maybe he needs to take a break. Maybe he's got some wrist issues or something. But like, I really feel like his hands are just nowhere as close as what he was like what was it 2020 100 thieves 2021 sort of thing when they were
Mm.
winning a lot of stuff or being really up there. So yeah, I don't know what's up with FBI. He really needs to clean his up because I think if he does clean it up, Palafox and contracts are looking pretty good. Like this team could definitely be a contender. But for right now, they're kind of just a meme team, right? They can't keep it together against the bottom tier teams, and it's holding them back from actually being like what top four contention. Imagine they just had a couple extra wins against the bottom of the team. We would be saying they're one of the best teams in the LCS right now because they beat all the top LCS teams. But their record just doesn't reflect that. All right, let's move on from energy and talk about a different team. What team do you want to talk about? We talked about TSM, Team Liquid, and NRG so far. Not usually how we start things off. Let's go into a little bit of FlyQuest. They're back to the
Oh
03,
god.
another narrative. I kind of hyped them up a lot last podcast. I fully take responsibility. That's a fat L on my part. No, they did not trend upwards. They just had a little blip in the radar, and they're back down to 0-3, playing pretty badly. What are your thoughts on FlyQuest?
I I actually just don't know what Vikla was doing in their game against Dignitas. Like I thought that was a game they had in the back. Spico was fed, Prince wasn't feeding, and he was playing Kaisa, who's in my opinion broken as crap right now. And somehow Vikla was like 1-5 on Annie. He just like could not position correctly, could not play Annie. Like, or was he 0-5? And
Yep.
anyone who's played Annie, like she's not easy at pro play because most people understand what she does, they play around it, but she puts a lot of pressure out, and her buttons aren't hard. So if you're a fundamentally good player, but you're just like a little tilted on your mechanics because you've been in NA solo queue for too long, and it should still be in your wheelhouse. You should still have enough knowledge of how to play League of Legends to play Annie. Like this is literally the meme LS always propagates, right? Just play Annie if you're bad.
Mm.
So I just don't get it. I think they're lost to GG. They played GG, right? They lost to
Yep.
GG in a decently long game. That one made more sense to me. Even a good FlyQuest currently, like if they're not at peak potential for all of their players together, I don't think they deserve to beat FlyQuest. FlyQuest doesn't deserve to be Golden Guardians, right? So that's fine. What I really want to say though is that this is a terrible sign for their long term. Like they probably, I didn't think it was possible, but they're 2 games back from 8th place, so there's a very large chance that they just don't make it to
Yep.
playoffs in a top 8 season with a roster like this. Is probably the most expensive roster in the league, by the way.
Yep.
The most or the second most, depending on how much liquids actually costs. But on paper, it's got the biggest stars, right? So like, it's actually crazy to me that Vulcan's a downgrade. And so what I want to pose to you as a question is any of this Vulcan's fault? Because he's the only technical factor that's changed between this and a 3rd place, almost 2nd place split, right? Just a couple months ago. My thoughts, I don't think so. It doesn't make any sense because he's always been so good. But I have no idea. Like Ayla's not even a Smurf or anything. He's not bad currently, but it shouldn't be the difference, right?
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna blame Vulcan as in it's all his fault, but I mean I will say it's at least some of Vulcan's fault, right? Like definitely when I look at just the gameplay, I'm just gonna think about the FlyQuest versus GGS game because uh, he actually did an interview with Travis right after that game, and I kind of got some insight onto how Vulcan is feeling and stuff. And you'll
Mhm.
notice, right? None of the other players on FlyQuest are really doing interviews or doing a lot of content stuff. Vulcan is still doing a lot of interviews and content and talking about the show. I think Spica did one little thing that I saw. Um, with Degon, but it was mostly memes and stuff and talking about past rosters. But for Vulcan, I remember it was like a very sketchy dive that FlyQuest or that Golden Guardians did on FlyQuest's bot lane. It was at the very beginning of the game. Basically, River, Stixay, and Huhi they dove bot lane to kill Prince, and they all barely lived with 1 HP, right? And then Vulcan, he's on melee. He flashes over to try and auto attack last hit. He flashes too far away. He can't auto attack. Who he gets his cooldowns back up on Nautilus, and he solo kills him as and I just have to think like, man, there are so many ways that Vulcan could have played that dive better. I feel like Prince could have positioned a bit closer to a turret to basically make it so that when uh, River hit him, that he would still be in turret range. But besides that, man, Vulcan, I feel like really boofed that when he missed his Q and then Flash didn't get the auto attack. So there's a couple of little mechanical things that Vulcan messed up in that dive, and then that really snowballed things because after that, both Vulcan and Prince had just like a caught like just a ton of just awkward moments. Like their synergy is super off. Vulcan is like following other people around and getting caught with them. Prince seems to be like just ulting for fun. Like there's so many times where Prince is walking in super precarious positions, and yeah, he's not dying, but it's like he's doing like trading not hook Nautilus hook for Zaya ulti. Not really worth, right? One's a 5 second cooldown, the other's like 2 minutes or something. So there's a ton of situations where like Prince is pathing super aggressively and super like dangerously. Um, there's a ton of situations where like Vulcan is just on a different page with his ADC and is like go hanging out with other people and stuff. And from what I've gathered from like interviews and conversations that other personalities and pros have had, is like Prince actually has a massive ego. Prince is very much apparently on his past rosters is like, you camp for me, you jungler pass for me. I want all the resources. I will carry that sort of mentality. I don't know how true it is, but I'm starting to believe it a bit more that Prince might be like this as a person.
And
Yeah.
to add on to that, it was confirmed by, was it Vulcan in that interview, or at least some insiders on FlyQuest literally
Mm.
said that Prince is the type of player who hates coin flips. He,
Mm.
if it's not a 90-10 scenario, he like gets tilted or upset or whatever that they're like throwing the game or like taking it on a coin flip. So I
Mm.
think that like he might just be paired on a roster like Impact infamously, right? Is just like he knows to find an angle. He's like, yeah, this is the 45% chance, but we just win the game, even though we're down 5K. Impact has always done that. And like Impact just looks like he's afraid to take these angles. And I thought it was just Impact not playing as well, but it could just be that his Korean buddy Prince is like, yo, what the hell, man? Like, don't
Yeah.
do that. Maybe they're trying to baby Prince and it's just not worth it. Also, there was a universe Prince goes to LPL and he would have absolutely foundered as well in a region like that where everyone is like testing their limits all the time.
Yep.
So no wonder Prince was so good on KT. They probably built the whole system around him because he's the superstar.
LSB,
And
right? Live Sandbox.
LSB, not KT.
Yeah.
KT's Vikla. Sorry, I got him mixed up. But LSB. But they never got through the finish line. It's probably part of the reason, right? You do need a coin. Modern League requires a little bit of coin flipping, but you just have to make sure it's like slightly weighted to you, right? You can't take 55 45s. You're just going to lose. People are going to out tempo you. If they flip enough times, they'll just beat you because the game can end off of one good flip.
Yeah.
So he's like born, I think he's born for the wrong era of League of Legends and he's in the wrong team. I fully expect if he was on a different team, he could do really well. But he's just not made for this team, and they have to build around him. Otherwise, he's going to ruin the whole team dynamic, which it looks like it's already happening. At least he's part of the reason. Vikla is the more obvious problem, but having an attitude problem with your other import superstar, just like the whole team's dysfunctional.
I'm getting some serious Piglet vibes from Prince.
Oh,
Like
that's a great
he
comparison.
thinks he's too good for NA. He's got cracked mechanics. He comes from a better region, but he's never won anything, right? So
His
it's
name
like,
is literally Prince, by the way.
yeah,
It's like You
a
can't
bit
make
of
this shit up.
a bit of a discount piglet, you know what I mean? Never won worlds, never won anything, but thinks he's hot shit, better than what he's supposed to be doing. Thinks he knows better, maybe. I mean, this is all speculation, but I mean, what we've gathered from co-streamers and personalities and even the pro players themselves, right? It's definitely not a perfect world for Prince. I think for Vicla's sake, he looks god awful mechanics. I am actually going to cut him some slack. I feel like he is legitimately trying to be a team player though. When I watch his play, especially on Azir, when I watch him play, it actually seems like he's like going with the call to engage. It actually seems like he's like, yo, I'm gonna go for a pick on this ADC guy and I'm gonna insect him or whatever. Like I, for some reason, weirdly like it's a bit of a quid scenario where I do feel like this, like their mid laner is he's forcing himself to be more of a playmaker because his team is super falling behind, and he looks bad because of it. Vulcan did say it in an interview once that like him and Vikla were having trouble communicating with each other because Vikla or because Print or Vulcan was just talking too fast, and Vikla didn't understand the English. That to me, I mean, I actually, as much as I hate Vikla is getting, I feel like he's trying to work with his team. He's trying to like put things and pieces together to somehow make something work, but he's just very inexperienced, right? He doesn't know what to do in this scenario. And Spica, his jungler, is also on a different planet. I feel like this guy is just not the same since last split at all. It was so apparent to me this weekend because, it was a bit of a fluke in last weekend where they went 3-0. But this week, even when he's doing well, I feel like, oh my god, dude, Spica is making sometimes the most opposite call with what his team is doing. It feels like he's really just in a different planet sometimes. Impact, kind of also on a different planet, but at least he gets good stuff done. So I mean, that's the FlyQuest roster. I think this is the most perplexing team that we have. Like, it's so confusing what's going on with these guys. Like I don't know. Prince is mentally checked out. This guy is straight up boomered. Like, I personally would bench Prince if I was on this roster and be like, you need to be benched to show you're not invincible, bro. And we're gonna put somebody else
Mm.
in. And if we do even slightly better, Prince, that better light a fire under your ass, and you gotta get your shit together, your attitude together, because you can be a great player, but attitudes will always hold back great players from actually being great. Like he will just go down in history as a nothing if he can't get his attitude together.
Right. Final nail in
So
the coffin. He's being coached by Song, guys. They made that DRX roster of like basically only Deft and Barrel are like okay. Zeka obviously played like a superstar, but they're not superstars, right? On
no,
paper,
yeah,
they
yeah,
won Worlds last year. They literally
no.
just won the Worlds, and he's Korean. Okay, he's a Korean coach with a resume, like the most relevant resume possible, because he just won Worlds. And if he can't make this work, like I think it's you just have to say he's uncoachable currently. He might need a kick in his ass. Maybe that is a benching. You can't go worse than 3-12 for a roster of this firepower, right? Like
Yeah, it's pretty
they
bad.
could put okay, if Spawn joined it could be worse. But like they could put most people in and it would be better.
Damn, dude, Spawn is just hanging out. He gets freaking hit with oh no at
Yeah,
the
thank
end.
God I had Spawn, man. It wasn't not a team I like. I just saw some unthinkable things from that role.
True, true, true. I mean, oh my god. And speaking of Spawn and Fake God, Tactical, man, he actually looks like he's the only human being on Immortals. Like, I think
Oh my
I
god.
wanted to give a little credit, like way back in like the earlier of the split to Treats, but no, Treats is just as bad as the rest of his team. It really feels like it's a Tactical versus the world. Um, like, oh my god, dude, Treats was doing some unspeakable things this weekend. um,
That's so true.
also to flame Treats a little bit. So apparently, I didn't know this. I learned this recently. Is that he before he got a starting spot on Immortals, he would join the co-streams with LS, and they would watch NA games, and Treats would literally just sit there and permanently trash talk the NA region and how bad the players was. Like, why would you do this? Blah blah blah. And I get it's for content. You're kind of mucking it up, but it's kind of funny to see someone flame North America while you're sitting at home on your computer, than to actually join North America and look as bad as he does. So, haha, in your face. I would have been on your side if you didn't make fun of North America so much. But I am not, so I'm going to make fun of you. Um, all right, let's move on. That was a bit of an Immortals, just a little bit of making fun of them real quick. What team do we want to talk about next?
Dominant.
Cloud9 a little bit?
Oh, okay, we can do Cloud9 then
I
dig?
want to talk a little bit about Cloud9. They did some losing these days. They lost to
Uh,
GGS.
yep.
Gotta say, my boy River kind of had a humongous jungle gap. That was insane on the J4. It's kind of been the
Oh
perfect
man.
circumstance of perfect storm of situations to bring J4 back in the meta. But with Vi and Wukong nerfed and them pretty much not showing up in the meta at all, Wukong or J4 is prime jungle material. After Sejuani Maokai, I think he might be right there in the tier list. Okay, maybe Poppy. Poppy is a bit
Poppy
a good.
too. But Poppy's more conditional on what did the enemy team pick though,
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to.
So I think you can actually make a case for more J4 now in the meta. Jesus Christ, dude, what a clinic! This River had 100% kill participation in like a 28-minute game against Cloud9. Um, Cloud9, they, I don't know, they do not look like they're all firing. Do you think they're a little sleepy? Do you think, they're just a little mid split dip
Oh,
and they'll
I mean,
bounce back?
I know exactly what the issue is. It's Fudge, guys. He
Yeah,
can't. Like, I feel like Licorice just does so much more on average, right? Maybe in this series it was a River show. I mean, it definitely was a River show, but like Fudge is just not there. He's been not there for, I would say, at least half of the games, and they're a 9-3 team, right? Half of the games, I would say, I would not consider him a factor in the game. That's not good for someone who has been good in previous splits. Even Berserker like hasn't really gotten much done. Like he got like a 1,000 goal. I think he got 1,000 goal cash out
yeah,
on Draven this game.
yeah, it did, yeah.
Just like he got it. I was like, I didn't notice a difference in the game, like momentum at all. MNES got completely gapped by Gory in mid lane in terms of pressure. Obviously, once you start falling behind on Annie versus LeBlanc
Yeah.
and Jarvan, it's over. But like MNES has also been a little bit soft on the second half. And that might be just related to the top half of the map, right? Like his jungler is just like, what am I supposed to do with these bozos?
Yeah.
Like I think Blabber still looks for invades. He still looks to be aggressive. He still hits a decent amount of stuff. But I think as a jungler, you just make significantly more mistakes than any other role once your solo lanes fall behind. And I mean, that's obvious, right? You just
Yeah.
everything is just shit. So I don't blame Blabber yet, and that's odd for me. But I really think it's a Fudge, and then that leaks down to his less stable mid laner. Like if Fudge is on, I promise you the MNS is going to look way better.
Yeah, I'm gonna comment a bit about the Draven and the Berserker. Man, we were talking about it in chat while it's happening, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
this 3-item Draven. He did get his massive cash out, right? He has the same items as Aphelios, 3 items, right? It's not the same items, but same number of items.
Yep.
Uh, and Berserker is losing an auto attack battle to a Shiv LeBlanc. I was literally watching it in live happening. Like Berserker is like Stixay was like not there or something, right? Berserker is like all of his team is kind of like is dying and tanking, and it's just Berserker and Gory. They're just auto attacking each other, and you know who wins? It's the LeBlanc. LeBlanc won. LeBlanc like that build does no
Shiv
damage.
is broken. I mean,
Yeah, but it's a Draven, man, with 3 items. Do damage. So I think that build is not it, man. What it was
yeah,
Triforce Collector LDR. I guess that
yeah.
does no damage. That was just pitiful. He also had a Soraka in his back pocket. I gotta say, dude, that Soraka pick was probably the worst thing in history. Against LeBlanc J4, like where are you
What are you
going,
doing, bro?
Soraka?
Well,
Yeah.
against LeBlanc, the idea is you stop her dashback, but the problem is like you really need coordination and you need to hit it hard because LeBlanc just takes like one step out of it and she blinks. So, like MNS wasn't chain CCing, Fudge was doing literally nothing. Like there are 3 chain CCs, right? That they
Yeah.
could pile onto silence, but you never saw that combo work. Because also Gory is good at finding angles. Like the Soraka was just useless. I bet I'm gonna channel Alistar. If he was here, he'd probably be flaming the Triforce Draven as well,
Yep.
just because of what not necessarily that it's always bad per se, but what this team needed was it was centered around Draven and like he was doing piss damage. Although
Yeah.
he did have more damage percent share of his team compared to Stixay, but that's partially because River and Gory were just stomping so hard, not
Yeah.
because
I mean,
Stixay
it
was playing bad.
it's a massive draft gap for T9, honestly. I mean, I've been noticing this a bit more with T9. They just sometimes they'll have a draft where it's like very lane focused, and it's like they just get draft gaps so hard. Like the Braum completely shuts down like the Draven Annie stuff to burst you. Like it's so hard to burst anybody against a Braum. And then you have like a J4, right? There's nobody that can dash out of J4 combos except Viego and Renekton, right? But then your bot lane is just totally toast against J4. So yeah, it's it. I mean, this was supposed to be one of our highlight matches of the week, right? GGS versus C9, top of the table. Preview of last year's or last split's finals, but it did kind of go into the wayside with how hard C9 got stomped, right? I want to talk a bit more about C9, their Dignitas game. I thought this was an interesting game. It was close from Dignitas, which I think is impressive from their side. Um, I'm gonna go through a couple scenarios and talk about M&S and Fudge. Actually, you kind of mentioned it a bit before, but in this game in particular, the relationship was very interesting because it was actually followed directly by the LC9, this C9 basically being on the desk, their whole five
Yep.
team taking over the mic and talking through drafting and the post show. So you got to see a lot of insight, and they're very like they. I mean, they're very much like five brothers sounding. Like they're yelling at each other, yelling over each other. They're talking, they're memeing with each other. But they seem to be in good standings. Like they actually seem comfortable with each
Mm-hmm.
other. So I want to talk about in game with Dignitas and Cloud9. So there's a moment where it's the first Rift Herald, right? And Blabber and Fudge are on the Rift Herald, and Eminez is kind of chunked, but he's helping them out. They finish the Rift Herald. They do not pick up the eye, but as soon as they finish the Rift Herald, Eminez he leaves the fight because it's actually Dignitas. I believe it's Rich and Santorin are there, like contesting and fighting C9, which is why they can't pick
Mm-hmm.
it up. Eminez, he just leaves and he goes to the mid lane to shove it out, while Jensen is on LeBlanc. He TPs because I think he got chunked in lane. He TPs and he joins the fight, and they kill Fudge, right? And you could kind of look at that scenario as, hey, like I'm pretty sure Rich was 1 HP on the Jax. If Eminez was there to just have a couple auto attacks in there, that's like a 1-for-0. Maybe it's a 1-for-1 because LeBlanc is there to clean up, but for the most part, that's a 1-for-0. But the thing is, there's like, in terms of like lane tempo and lane priority, what probably happens after, like, let's say Eminez gets the kill onto Rich, he has to go back to lane, and he's chunked, he's low, he doesn't have a buy, so he probably loses the cannon wave, right? Because LeBlanc is full HP, he shoves it in. So there's a weird conversation you can have about what's fully optimal, right? Should Eminez go for the wave, shove it in, and play for his own tempo, play for his own lead and his own CS differential against LeBlanc? Or should he help out his top laner, who's literally 1 HP, uh, almost killing the enemy top laner, right? That's like, I think that was first blood almost. Um, I thought it was really funny that Eminez chose the abandon my team and play for lane strat. So I wonder, like, was that intentional? Is that something that they practice in scrims? Is that like a mentality that these guys have, like outside of the game, that like their coach is like, yo, like there are these scenarios, they look bad, they feel bad, you're kind of abandoning your teammate, but it's better for you. There's another scenario where Eminez is in top lane. I think they had a big fight, or they took Baron or something. No, they didn't take Baron, but they had a big fight. And Eminez is pushing the top lane with Fudge on Renekton. And then Eminez, he's basing in open, and there's like Jensen on LeBlanc is like staring at them down and wants to cancel Eminez's recall. And Fudge is like standing in front of Eminez so he can get the recall off so that Eminez can answer the bot lane push that Rich was doing. This is a very wordy explanation. But basically, Fudge is defending Eminez's recall, and then Jensen on LeBlanc chases Fudge down and kills him. So there's two instances in this one game where Fudge basically dies for Eminez's sins. And it very feels much like I get the picture like, wow, they really like Fudge is being abandoned and hard like Direst. Like this is a full Direst treatment. Um, so I thought it was interesting. I mean, there's a lot of like solo queue sort of like mentality where there's this guy named Elite 500 where he does this all the time, right? He's playing Vladimir mid lane. He will abandon his team. He will ditch his jungler, not go help him fight just to get a better wave state. And this is something like, we might say like to Bjergsen, right? Like, hey, don't do that. This is a team game. Help your
Mm-hmm.
team. It's hard for me to know what the right call is, as because it's mostly about what your team is okay with. I think if like you're trying to protect the mental of your teammates, because that's actually like a factor in your gameplay and like determines whether you win or lose, you got to help your team. But I mean, if Fudge can keep his mental intact, it might be better to abandon him sometimes, right? Because at the end of the day, Eminez went 8-1. And he ended up kind of doing the heavy lifting for that game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is though, they when they went on that desk and took over, which I thought was a great segment. I thought they were hilarious. I think that it's really unfortunate Zen is having a bad ish split for his standards
Yeah.
because he's been killing it with the content. Every interview, everything that he's been hosting like has been good. I don't want them to overuse him, but he has been like one of the more charismatic pros in terms of just being interesting, right? You can
Yep.
be annoying, you can be like not annoying per se, but you could be divisive, but you have to be no matter what is the greatest sin is to be boring on
Yeah.
podcasts. So he was pretty interesting. He was pretty like good for the broadcast. But Fudge went on on the post show and he said, "I never want to play Renekton again."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, like they won. I guess that must have been a conscious decision. He kept his mental, but then when he was like on on mic, he's just like, I never want to see this shit again. So
Yeah.
he could be joking, like everyone likes to call it Renekton a dog champ or whatever. But he tilted. We don't know. I mean, they did lose this later on in that week. Oh no, they lost the first game of the week. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. But they still
I,
lost.
I think for Fudge, it's definitely like half truth, half memes. Like I think that's very common in the league community to be like in like a meme jokey term, but say something that's actually kind of true. Yeah.
That's true.
Eminez, I did notice right after that Dignitas game, Eminez actually went over right to Fudge and patted him on the shoulder and said something to him, and Fudge got up and smiled. So I think like it's something that gives me hope about this team is that even when sometimes the bad vibes or the bad in-game stuff happens, it seems like out of the game they're still fine with each other. Eminez on stage and in-game, I'm gonna be honest, Eminez like I think you can kind of get this if you play League enough. You can kind of like get a sense of what a player is just by the decisions they make. Eminez in game to me, I can tell he seems like a toxic guy. I'm not gonna lie. The way he positions, the way he moves his character, the way he like will BM the opponent or even his own teammates, right? It feels like he is a toxic in-game player. But when I look at him out of game and I look at him interact with his teammates, he does seem like he's a nice guy to his teammates outside of game. And he looks like he's a pretty nice dude in general. So I think it's funny to see this dichotomy. Like, for me, I've been playing League for like over 10 years. I can kind of get a sense of like what a person is in game. It seems like Eminez, yeah, he is a bit of that like Giga Chad, like I play for myself and like I will carry my team sort of mentality. Out of
Mhm.
game though, it seems like he does work well with them at least in conversation.
Which is
So
the surprise, right? He was literally unplayable on a team. He like switched like 7 rosters in 5 years or 4 years, whatever it was.
yep.
So like I'm making up numbers, but it's something like that. He's ridiculously hard to work with, and like it looks like they get gelled together. Whenever they had him on the desk, they were trying to include him in the jokes. If he didn't understand, they would give him room to do it. Like
Yep.
not all pro players have a lot of empathy, guys. So like the fact that he's included means he probably actually fits in. He probably does play like a toxic little shit though in the game.
Yeah, I
He's
could.
like, I want
Yeah.
to carry guys, and then
Yeah.
Fudge is like, okay,
Main character vibes. Yeah.
190 CS at 30 minutes. Renekton is like, or 184 CS or something.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
depressing.
Yep. Freaking Eminez has almost double his CS at the end of the game, so he's having a fun time. I mean, you could tell like after Cloud9 lost to GGS that they went full try hard, right? Against freaking Dignitas, they went the Giga push comp with Tristana, Varus, Heimerdinger to shove you in permanently. I mean, that's like a playoff comp for them. That's literally a finals comp for them. And then against freaking Immortals, they also went with the Giga, like just freaking Sejuani, Braum, Oriana, like just Giga scaling team fight comp. So C9, I think when they want to turn it on and they don't play something experimental like Draven, Soraka, or whatever, that they can really just be a solid team. It's just up to when they turn it on. So I thought that was just really interesting for Cloud9. They were a bit of the spotlight just because of the way they were on the desk, which I really enjoyed. I hope we get other charismatic teams to jump on the desk because I it that one death segment of them talking and joking about the game was more interesting than getting the entire analyst crew of like Mark Z and Emily Rand and Raz and all those and Jat talking. Like those guys, I mean, they're great. They're our LCS, but like they were a fraction of interesting as like getting the LCS team, at least for me, and watching them
Mhm.
interact.
We just need more of that. That's how you get to know the players, and that's how I know like M&S has a sense of humor, or
Yep.
whoever is like, Fudge is a salty player when he plays for Necton. Like just stuff
Yep.
like that was always stuff we used to talk about when like Dyrus would go on stream after like a shit week, and we're like, oh man, he is not having it.
I would like the chance to play League of Legends. Fudge had that exact moment.
Legendary. It sounds like old men like talking about, oh, back in my day, but it was so much more interesting, and like they're starting to get there. I really honestly think they have the right ideas more often than they don't, except for some casting stuff. But we're also at the point where like you just aren't going to get people back unless you really ramp it up, right? You need to really up the quality so that people are past the point of just being happy with it and they actually invite their friends to come back, right?
Yep.
We need that momentum.
We need it. We need it. And, what we've gotten so far in terms of this category has been pretty good getting the pro plays involved. Any other teams you want to talk about? So we could talk about EG. We could talk about 100 Thieves. I'm just going to let you take it.
Yeah, I wanted to at least bring up that Dig once again has an okay week, but they're also replacing Diamond for Poom. And that, to me, is the more exciting part because honestly, Dig is a 6-6 team with some highlights, right? Like, Jensen Santorin aren't completely useless this split. Rich is looking like at least a top 3 top laner depending on the game. I thought that they were doing really well considering Diamond was like bottom 2 supports for me in my mind. It's between him and like sometimes Ignar, right? Like, or was it Ignar? Who's the immortal support?
Immortal support right now
is
Treats. Yes.
I thought it was tactical Ignar in bot lane. It's Treats. Okay,
Treats. Ignar's
maybe
energy.
He's not playing the worst, but like he's definitely talked more shit on co-streams for like a whole year now than he has played. He hasn't played nearly to the level where you're like, I would have done this, I would have done that. And so that's my point for Dig, but I wanted to use that to also transition to TSN or 100 Thieves, where Double was also talking crap for a long time. And you might think I'm about to flame Double, but actually he's probably the best player on their team consistency-wise. What I want to flame is Closer. This guy.
That was very roundabout.
Maybe the worst jungler behind, maybe ahead of Kenby, but like they're close.
Yeah, they are.
So bad. Like we were talking last split about this guy being one of the best junglers of all time in NA, and this split, like he's actually just a bot. Like I don't understand. You just go. I have to collect myself.
Okay.
As a jungle, we're both jungle players, and watching this guy play when he's not on his champions is actually it's baffling. He's like actually a one trick on a pro level apparently.
He looks very, very lost on he had an okay Poppy game, I would say, which was interesting, but he looks very lost on the Sejuani, on the Maokais, which is nothing new. He looked lost on it last split as well. Nothing improved, right? I think I remember once Team Liquor or 100 Thieves got eliminated last split. But by the way, in a very close 3-2 series with Golden Guardians, who ended up, going to MSI, we were all talking about all Closer needs to do is just play some Maokai Sejuani. It's not that hard, and get your shit together. It's been meta for 2 years now. Sejuani Maokai has been meta for 2 years, Closer. It's time to be good at them. Wukong is nerfed. You still couldn't play Vi, even though she was meta for 2 years as well. But now she's finally gone. I think you either have to make a hard stance after your 100 Thieves, be like, Closer, Maokai and Sejuani are too OP. You need to learn them and be good. Or 100 Thieves needs to make a hard stance and be like, we cannot get this guy to play Maokai Sejuani well. We're just going to have to put you on your team, on your champions, and have the rest of the team make up for it. Which I think is the worst possible situation for Quid, right? Imagine being a rookie mid laner, and instead of your team being we need to play around you to make you comfortable so that you can develop and slot into an LCS caliber player and team, is we need to play around our struggling resident MVP top tier jungler because he can't play 2 of the easiest champions of the game. You're
not wrong. I feel juggled by Ivern, and I was watching. Ivern is kind of broken, but the whole time I was just you can't play Sejuani. It's been years, man.
You can't play Sejuani just play Ivern then. Ivern is so easy, bro. You don't have to jungle. The jungle are his friends. You shield people. You walk around with days. I don't know, man. 100 Thieves, they need to figure something out with their jungler. Because I also think, I don't know, who to blame. Because it's the jungle, mid, and support are usually very tied together, right? If one of them struggles, the others tend to struggle as well. So Buzio, it's hard for me to blame him because he's a rookie, but he looks also really bad. He looks like he is not on the same page with his team. He's making some weird engages. He's getting caught out a lot. He's doing a lot of like not reacting and do anything until it's too late. Like a fight happens, someone gets caught, there's some stuff going on, and then Buzio uses abilities when it's too late. It's like the play's done. It's over. You basically suicided and got not much. Like you had to either commit to the suicide as not a support way earlier on in the fight and try to like salvage it, or just bail completely. But he chose the middle option, which is the worst of the two. I think for Double Lift, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think Doublelift is bad at picking teammates? He picked Sword Art before. He also picked a lot of rosters actually in terms of like he always gets a say right in the rosters he goes in.
Yeah.
And in recent times, after the TSM win, which was also a pretty fluky year where they
that
were
was
six
very
afterward.
fluky. Yeah.
But they won a split, they won it. After that, like since he's come back, like the rosters just look dumb and dumber. Like Quid, I'll say real quickly, Quid had the most garbage like build path ever. He was trying to build like something out of Lost Chapter, and he just never finished the item, and then just built a Nashers. And I'm sitting there like,
oh,
Jojo was like almost on. Jojo was like on 2 completed items before Quid finished his first mythic, and I was just like, "What are you doing, man?" But anyways, I'll just leave it out there. Do you think Double's bad at picking teammates? Because it's been almost a year now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say he's bad at picking teammates. I imagine Buzio. I mean, Buzio is like he's part of that 100 Thieves Next or 100 Thieves Academy that was super hyped up with like Tenacity and Kenvi and stuff. He's a part of that roster, I think. But yeah, I don't know if he's bad because it's like Buzio definitely had like the showings of being like a great support that was supposed to step in, but none of those 100 Thieves like hyped up players actually did well, right? Like Tenacity and Kemi both kind of exploded, right? I think the other player was Copy, who is now on C9 Academy or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if he's bad at picking teammates, but I would say Doublelift is controversial at being a good teammate after they've been picked. So I'm not gonna say that Doublelift is being a dick to Buzio, but I wonder how constructive of a person he's being when they're trying to figure this stuff out. Because like I think it's different when Doublelift is in 2019, 2020. He's the best player in the league. He joins a new support. He can tell you what to do, and you can go with it, and it'll work out, and you'll play pretty well. Versus taking a break for 2 to 3 years, that stuff that you used to know is no longer relevant, and you kind of are rusty at it, right? So when he's going around telling his support and his nearby teammates how to play around him and how to win the game, it's like outdated, right? Like he has to update his stuff. I just wonder if like he's solid enough mechanically so that he never looks that bad, but like in terms of being an actual in-game leader and out-of-game leader, I wonder if it's just like a little outdated, It kind of feels like this team is just they win in ways against like bottom tier teams where it's like, yeah, they won very convincingly, very solid, just like normal stuff, normal macro. Go for the gank, bot lane. Go for the collapse at the dragon pit, right? It's just very simple stuff. But when they get to a bit more complicated situations, they definitely seem just lost as a total of 5 people. They don't know what to do in difficult situations and complicated scenarios. So I kind of equate that. I mean, honestly, Closer, Someday, and Doublelift, they kind of all feel like they're in the same like old style of League of Legends almost, right? Like when you thought of 100 Thieves last year, Someday and Closer were on that roster. They were the epitome of pick scaling, wait the game out, and just outplay you later on with better macro and better team fighting. 100 Thieves last year with like FBI, Huhi, Abadagi stuff, they fell behind all the time and just had a better draft and out team fought you later on. So I feel like these players are just old and they just think of the game in like a very old way. And Quid, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, JoJo was actually talking Quid up and saying that Quid had a lot of potential to be really good. In a JoJo interview, and I think Quid is of the new age of League of Legends, where like I definitely feel like Quid is trying to fight more, and if I'm being honest, I really feel like the coaching staff and like the players on 100 Thieves, they need to get on the same page as Quid. Not Quid get on the same page as his team. I think it's the other way around. I think the other 4 need to go with what Quid is doing and go fight more and go skirmish more and go roam more. Because Quid is not afraid of losing a wave to his turret, bro. He will roam. He will miss 3 waves in a row to get a dive off. Like I feel like Quid is the new like era of League of Legends that we want to see. So yeah, I mean that's my 100 Thieves talk. I don't know. You got anything else about
No,
this
that's
sad
the
weird
major
team?
teams. The thing I would want to say is that I hope we get another leader figure that can like bring together teams. Maybe that's APA. Maybe he actually makes the team look better whenever he's in, or Insanity. Like after I've been inspired ever since I've watched T1. This is another week of burning down because Baker's not there. I was just like, wow, it really could just be one player that makes one of the best teams in the world look like absolute dog. And so that's my copium way of saying one replacement on any of these NA rosters could just make us godly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not impossible if you find the right people, right? Like we've had rosters like that old TSM roster where like a lot of those people didn't go on, like didn't like Hanser and Spencer and kind of fell off. Well, Spencer had a good time in C9, but they would fall off long term, right? They're not like the goats of the game
I
or
mean,
anything, right?
Biofrost, yeah,
Yeah,
never looked the same without double lift. Yeah,
I mean, Biofrost would probably be an upgrade over Diamond 2. But anyways, the point is like they never look the same, right? But we still can make something magical happen with the right people together. I want like a high figure. High is probably the only thing NA did have, where it's like the second he left, you're like, wow. See, I went from first place, second place to ninth place, and then
and
he
then
had
you
the
have to.
off roll on stage, and then they got into playoffs and got to Worlds. Like this is absurd, right?
Yeah.
So I want that again because I think that makes the league so hype, right? When we don't know what he's doing, but it feels like magic. I want a magic player, and I don't know if we have anyone that feels like magic on stage right now. Where we're like, if he's against an international player, like he's just gonna like it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be really exciting. Maybe it's JoJo. JoJo might be the magic after another year. Perks took a year or two to get good. So same with Caps. They all inted their asses off at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we'll
I
see.
feel like, I mean, I'm a Golden Guardians lover. I feel like Huhi is that magic player that like he takes some of these like more mediocre type players, he kind of like hyperbolic time chamber them. If you remember last split, they were talking uh Licorice and Stixay went on the dive, and they were talking about how Huhi was basically like forging them in like a mental like abuse relationship where Huhi would just like flame them and be like, no, just take it. It's like, it's not, don't take it emotionally. You're just playing bad. And then Licorice and Stixo would be like, okay. And then they just improve and improve and improve. And I mean, Hui was like the only person on this team that's actually on a top tier roster recently, right? Like Hui was on second place over and over, and Stixay and Licorice and even River and Gory, right? They're in the dumpsters of their careers, like not really on good teams. Now they're a good team. I feel like Hui is that magic player. He's got like that magic, like out of game presence that he can tell his team what's up and they can make changes. Um, but yeah, let's see. Did we miss any teams? Did we talk about all of them? We didn't really talk about EG that
I
much, right?
we didn't talk about EG at all, and then except in relation to other teams, and then I only talked about Dig briefly on the update. But I mean, that's pretty much all there was to say.
I mean, Dig is chilling. I mean, I'm excited for Poom to come back in, right? Long live CLG, the old roster. I see. This is the problem, right? Diamond, he looks like a complete griefer, and he is inting. But as you said, one player can make a huge difference. Poom could come in and all of a sudden not be griefing at all. All of his engages look much better, but the communication could be so much worse that maybe Dig stays the same or is a worse team, or they're just better because Poom should be a much better player than Diamond. But chemistry is more important sometimes than how good you are. I mean, just look at TSM, right? For EG, I mean, yeah, they lost to Energy, and it was pretty one-sided. It was pretty handedly. Um, I think EG is still good. I mean, I'm starting to kind of see the cracks. It's mostly actually around. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Unforgiven has a hard like Unforgiven is very good, but I feel like he has a hard time getting involved with his team, especially when he's on champs like Zaya. Like Zaya is one of those champions where it's like if your team is losing, all you can do is farm and get fed and like hope that people walk into you. I definitely feel like there are times where like when EG picks like a scaling non-aggressive go in comp, like they did against NRG with like the Azir Zaya stuff like that, like they can really struggle to know what to do and how to like keep themselves in the game and not like fall privy to just dying over and over again, right? Because that's what it felt like against NRG. They had a scaling comp, but they kept wanting to fight and they just killed themselves for it. But I mean, I got nothing else for these teams. We've talked a lot about it. Do you want to talk about the meta? The meta has evolved and changed quite a bit since the last patch. Anything you want to talk about?
Mm, things I want to talk about. I did mention it briefly in passing. I'm a big fan of Kaisa. I'm glad she's back. It's a huge buff to LPL teams, which is unfortunate for NA, but I think she's such a cool character. I love the way she plays and the way I hate that she can build everything, but I love the way she plays. So I'm glad she's back. I'm glad jungle's changed. Although they did nerf Ivern, I believe, but Ivern is unbelievably broken. I didn't know that Swirl Seed or whatever the E is
Yeah.
had two procs. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
time I was like, oh, I just thought it was a 4 second duration shield. That's broken. Then I played it on ARAM and I was like, this is busted. What the fuck? Like I
Yeah.
blocked the card that's all and then it refreshed. Anyways, my point is I'm excited for Kaisa. I think she's one of the best characters for just cool plays from the AD carry position. And she's super strong, but she doesn't feel like a Felios levels of bullshit or Zeri levels of bullshit, which is
Yeah.
odd to say because she was very bullshit when she came out.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
excited for that. I'm also excited that Zeri is almost dead. I think we saw her maybe somewhere, but I don't recall seeing Zeri very much last week.
Mm. I didn't see much there at all. Yeah. Still a ton of Aphelios. I thought that was interesting considering that Aphelios got nerfed really hard. But we still seeing a lot of him, so I guess he's just too good. Yeah, the jungle is honestly, it's not been like a fresh wave of sunshine because we had the four, right? Vi, Wukong, Sejuani, Maokai. Now we just got rid of Vi and Wukong, and it's mostly just Maokai, Sejuani, and we threw in a Poppy in there. And now we get a little bit of Viego and a little bit of Ivern, right? So I think the jungle, it still needs some tuning. It's a lot better. Getting rid of 2 out of 4 of the mainstays that have been there for 2 years now is great. But I want to see Sejuani and Maokai removed. I think that they've been there longer than Vi and Wukong, right? Sejuani was actually and Maokai were like top laners also, in addition to their junglers, and then they got nerfed, and now they're only junglers, right? So it's been too long that they've been in the meta. I think Maokai not as much because he had that mid scope. Sejuani actually has been a top lane jungle flex for over 2 years. I think it was 2 worlds ago we were seeing Sejuani bans because she was going Ignite TP top lane. 2 worlds ago, I'm pretty sure. So that's too long, guys. Sejuani needs to get out of the meta. Um, so that's for jungle. I think for mid lane, I think it's been pretty interesting the things you can do with LeBlanc is not Giga OP. People are doing zigs, which is very fun. We saw some zigs in the ADC role. That's interesting and exciting. Um, I mean, but for the most part, right, I feel like top lane is still Renekton versus Cassante almost every game. Very boring. So maybe a little bit of Malphite here and there, maybe some Jace. And the bot lane is mostly the same, right? The only thing. Oh, Tristana mid. That's what I wanted to talk about. So yeah,
Mm.
Tristana mid is very, very strong, and it has been for quite a while. But for some reason, it just now became like super high prio. And I've been trying to figure out why, because even in like 1311 and 1312, the Asian regions all of a sudden jumped to it. Europe is on 1311, they jumped to it, Tristana mid. So what made Tristana mid just like not a lot of changes, right? It was just the mid-season ADC itemization change where it was like now she can build Navori and Kraken together. That's very strong for her.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, she was strong before that too, right? Because you could build Navori and Gale Force together, right? Or
Yeah.
so
My mind goes to where the jungle was. Vi and Wukong being out of meta means that Tristana just has so much more breathing room in mid lane. There are very few current junglers that like can easily keep Tristana down, right? But if a
mm,
Wukong gets like big enough, like you just kind of get crapped on, or you have to pop your ult on cooldown, and he doesn't even have to ult yet, right? Because the second he's on top of you, it's over.
yeah.
So I think it's a mix of that as well as it's a good enough matchup into the LBs we were seeing a bunch of. In my mind, at least, I think it's a pretty fair matchup.
And Azir,
Um,
it's good for Azir or into
yeah, so
Azir.
I just think it's a mix of matchup, and I think everyone has gotten clued in that like with the new item changes for AD carries, which are again, I don't know how they could possibly say they were weaker for AD carries, but at least for Tristana, buying first item Navori is really nice. It feels awesome. You just like blow you the difference is that in the past, because you had to do second item, you couldn't clear waves early as consistently. But now with Navori first item, you just have unlimited push and then you can roam. So that's a huge difference because that's the most important part of the game where Herald and everything's in contention. Second Herald.
Yeah, I think the pushing power is a big deal, and the I don't know. It's like there's still champs like Ari and Lissandra hanging out, which I'm not
Mhm.
saying is like it's not like bad for Tristana, but it's like other champions that can do like similar things, like Ari, Lissandra, LeBlanc, even Azir to an extent. They can jump around and like move around the map pretty like not easily, but like well enough, right? And team fight well enough, but they're a magic damage threat instead of like Tristana, who's only AD, right? When you pick a lot of Tristana and you have an ADC, it's very incentivized for the enemy to build Ninja Tabis, and it's super effective. So I think a lot of people stray away from these things, but Tristana, I guess, is just too good, right? Yeah, the Navori, like, I've been playing a lot of Tristana too, and the amount of plays you can make with Navori Kraken is insane. Like, you can jump in and you can reset your W over and over again so much because you're just reducing your cooldowns faster and faster. It's a really fun play style. She's insanely fun and really strong right now. But to be honest, I thought she was strong for a while, and we've seen that the interactions, at least with Vi, right, is very Tristana favored if you can do it well. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting. I mean, APA had a great game on it. We've seen a lot of people have great games. Jojo, M&S all have great games on Tristana. And it's a flex pick. You can put it in the ADC position too. Um, so yeah, that's the meta for the most part. Ivern is bullshit, yes.